In this exam question, students are being asked about the density required practical in physics. It says a student wanted to determine the density of an irregular shaped object shown in figure 3. Plan an experiment that would allow the student to determine the density of the object. Now, what I'm about to show you is a real student's real exam answer. You can tell it's a real answer from a real exam because in the exams they mark it on a computer, and that's how the marking comes out when you print it off. So question 2.1, this student got 2 marks out of 6. And what we're going to do is we're going to look at why. So we'll read the student's answer first. So they're given an equipment list. They say they need a displacement can, a beaker, and a measuring cylinder. And then they've gone on to their method. So the displacement can is placed on a flat surface and filled with water until it flows out of the spout. The student's showing a really good understanding here. They've used the correct equipment name and they have explained how to set it up correctly with filling it up with water right up to the spout. They then say place an empty beaker underneath the end of the spout. So they're preparing for the next step. They're again explaining very well how they want to use this equipment. It then says place the object being measured into the displacement can. Water should flow out of the spout into the beaker. Again, really good description. Pour the water from the beaker into a measuring cylinder. The measurement shown is the volume of the object. Now, everything they've said is really good. They've remembered part of the practical really well. They state the correct names of their equipment, beakers, measuring cylinders, and it's a really good explanation of how to use it. And they've said very clearly what that's finding them out. It's finding them out the volume. However, the question, if you read it again, plan an experiment that would allow the student to determine the density of an object. This student has almost perfectly described how to find the volume. Now, 6-mark questions are marked in levels, and the maximum the examiner can give in a 6-mark question, if their answer would get them nowhere near finding out what they've been asked to find out, is 2. They can get 3 or 4 marks if their answer would get them quite close to what they've been asked to find out, or 5 or 6 marks if it would definitely find it out. This student hasn't talked about how to find density. They've talked about how to find volume and stopped. So they need to add to their answer. Now, you're supposed to know an equation for density which can help you in this experiment. So the equation for density is mass divided by volume. Now that would get me a mark because it's linked to how I'm going to find density, which is what the question asked. The student has perfectly described how to find volume, so it is a good part of the answer, and because they've explained it well, the examiner was able to give them maximum marks in the range they were allowed. The thing they're missing is how to find mass. So to find mass, most students would say they would use scales. Place the object on some scales. That would get them a lot of credit. I am, however, going to use the scientific word for scales. So I'm going to say to find the mass, place the object on a top pan balance. Or just balance would do. But it's the more scientific terminology for scales. If the student had done it and put scales, they'd still got loads of credit though. So don't worry if you can't remember that exact term, but it does look better. But if I just add those things, place the object on a top hand balance, and tell the examiner this is to find mass, that's me showing that I know the other bit of equipment I need, I know what it will find out, and for density, I know the equation. So I would tell the examiner, I will take this mass I've just found, I will take the volume I found by this method, and I will divide them to find density. And that's a complete answer. So this student's done really well. They've just not completed their answer.